Welcome to Book Summary Podcast, your gateway to personal transformation. Each episode delivers big ideas from the world's most impactful books on mindset, productivity, and success, all in just a few minutes. Ready to turn knowledge into action? Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into something that sounds almost paradoxical, doesn't it? Getting super productive by learning how to relax.
Yeah, it does sound a bit backwards at first glance.
We're not talking about grinding harder. We're looking at the system, the philosophy really, behind stress-free achievement.
Yeah,
A lot of this thinking, of course, comes from the foundational work of David Allen.
absolutely. And the mission here, our goal for this deep dive, is to kind of extract the core principles. It's not about time management, not really. It's more about managing your attention, managing your commitments. How do you become genuinely ready for anything?
Ready for anything. I like that.
It boils down to making things happen. Big projects, small tasks, doesn't matter, with the least amount of wasted mental energy and friction possible.
And the central idea is pretty wild.
Yeah.
Your productivity is directly tied to how relaxed you are.
It seems counterintuitive, right? But think about it. When you're stressed, when you feel totally overwhelmed, your mind is just locked up. Everything feels like a huge effort.
Like wading through treacle.
Exactly. But if you build a system you can trust, a systematic way to handle everything coming at you, you create mental space. You actually free up your mind.
And that's when things start to flow. War gets done, it feels easier, and, crucially, you have bandwidth left over for actual creativity.
Precisely.
Yeah.
That's where the real magic happens. It connects to this concept, often borrowed from martial arts, the mind like water.
Okay, tell me more about that. Mind like water.
So imagine a perfectly calm pond. Now, you throw something in, could be a tiny pebble, could be a huge rock. An email, a crisis, a sudden idea.
Right.
The water reacts perfectly to the size and force of that input. It does exactly what's needed, no more, no less, and then it settles right back to being calm and still.
Ah, okay. So it's about appropriate response, then returning to a baseline calm.
Exactly. But you can't achieve that if your mind is already churning with worries, half-remembered tasks, unfinished business. That kind of effortless, appropriate response, it demands a conscious system. You need something external to hold all that stuff.
Got it. So let's break down the system. We're going to explore it based on the source material, looking at, four main areas?
Yeah, 4 key areas of productive behavior. First, how to just clear your head, get all those nagging things out. Second, how to focus effectively once your head is clear. Third, building the actual structures, the systems you need to trust. And finally, how all of that leads to relaxed, effective action. Sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Let's dive into part 1, clearing your head. Okay, so starting point. The bottleneck inside our own heads, our short-term memory. The source material calls it psychic RAM, which is a great term, and it says it's basically a terrible office.
A terrible office, yeah. Because think about it, the minute you try to hold even just say 2 unfinished things in your head, need milk and finalize merger, the system starts to break down. It creates stress. Things get forgotten.
Things fall through the cracks.
Totally.
Yeah.
Because that short-term memory, that psychic RAM, it has no real sense of perspective. No past, no future, no relative importance.
So it treats getting milk and buying a company with the same urgency.
Exactly. For your brain, at that level, they're both just open loops, incomplete things demanding attention right now. And they just sit there consuming mental energy, psychic energy, until you either do them or get them out of your head and into a trusted place.
I think everyone listening knows that feeling. It's like having way too many browser tabs open, right? Everything slows down.
That's a perfect analogy. And if something keeps popping back into your mind, that's a sure sign it's not getting done properly. Your brain is stuck being a reminder system, which it's terrible at, instead of being a problem solver, which it's brilliant at.
So the stress doesn't come from having too much to do.
Not fundamentally. It comes from having too many unmanaged commitments, things you haven't decided what the next step is, things just floating around in your head.
Which leads to this really interesting, almost philosophical point.
Yeah.
You can only feel okay about what you're not doing.
When you actually know what you're not doing.
Yes. So the stress comes from these broken promises we make to ourselves, maybe without even realizing it. I'll start that report. I need to call Aunt Mildred. And they just linger.
They linger as these sort of unconscious agreements. And if they're stuck in your head, you can't prioritize them properly. They'll be overvalued or undervalued, but you can't trust your judgment about them.
So having a complete inventory, knowing everything you've committed to, big and small, That's essential.
It's the prerequisite. It's not just nice to have. You need that complete objective list before you can make genuinely trustworthy decisions about what to do next, what your priorities really are.
And then the act of actually closing these loops, even the small annoying ones, it frees up energy. This magical mundane idea.
Yeah, the magical mundome. It sounds silly, maybe cleaning the garage or finally sorting that pile of mail, but it's incredibly powerful.
Why? Is it just procrastination?
No, it's the opposite. When you tackle those simple physical things, you're not avoiding the big stuff. You're actually proving to yourself, on a basic level, I can complete things. I can control my environment.
So it builds momentum.
Exactly. It creates this little jolt of competence, of control, and that feeling, that grounded sense of I can do stuff is what actually fosters the conditions for bigger inspiration. You clear the physical clutter, and it helps clear the mental clutter. It's like opening a path to the more important work.
Okay, that makes sense. The alternative then is just worrying. And the philosophy draws a clear line here.
A very sharp line. Productive thinking is analyzing, figuring things out, deciding the next step. Worrying is, well, it's avoiding doing that thinking.
Just spinning your wheels.
Totally. It drains energy, wastes time. And the irony is, for most of those nagging little worries, figuring out the very next physical action you need to take. It often takes like 15 seconds of focused thought.
It's only 15 seconds.
Often, yeah. That's the actual work, deciding the action. But we avoid that little bit of work and spend hours worrying instead. It just compounds the stress.
And is that avoidance why traditional getting organized efforts like making a giant to-do list on Sunday often fail?
That's a huge part of it. People try and do everything at once. They sit down to get organized, and they're trying to simultaneously dump everything out of their head, figure out what it all means, decide how important it is, sort it somehow, and pick the first thing to do.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting just describing it.
It is. The brain just overloads. You can effectively do all 5 phases of workflow: mastery, collect, process, organize, review, do all mashed together in one go.
So the fix is separation. Do one thing at a time.
Precisely. Give yourself permission. First, just collect. Get it all out. Don't analyze, don't judge. Just capture. Later, you come back and process, what is this? What's the outcome? What's the very next action? And then you organize those actions and reminders into your system, one step at a time.
Okay. And the payoff for doing all this, for getting things out of your head and into a system, is mental freedom. Space for creativity.
That's the ultimate goal. Creativity needs room to breathe. It can't flourish if your mental pathways are clogged with dozens of these unmanaged thoughts and reminders. You need clear space.
The sources mention a kind of fear associated with this, though. The fear of seeing everything written down.
Yeah, it's a real thing. There can be this moment of confronting your inventory, all your commitments and ideas listed out, and feeling maybe a bit intimidated. Or even this fear of, is that it? Is that all I've got? Confronting the potential limits of what you're trying to do.
That sounds vulnerable. Maybe even paralyzing for some people.
It can feel that way initially, but the argument is that pushing through that fear, actually seeing the full scope of your commitments, is incredibly liberating in the end. Right. Because you're no longer guessing or worrying about what you might have forgotten. You see the reality. And dealing with reality, even a big reality, is always less stressful than dealing with unknown anxieties. It actually boosts your self-esteem because you're now operating from a place of control, from the source of your ability to manage things rather than being pushed around by the chaotic effects of unmanaged stuff.
So the core idea becomes, you are not your work.
That's it. You are the manager of your work. By getting it out of your head and into an objective system, you can look at it, review it, make decisions about it. You become its master, not its slave.
And that frees you up.
It frees you up to be fully present, to decide, okay, I see all my commitments are captured and have next actions. Now I can choose to spend 3 hours completely focused on this creative project, or like the example given, I can go prune that pine tree with 100% focus because you know what you're choosing not to do at that moment. You trust the system holds the rest.
Okay, so we've cleared the decks mentally. Now, part 2. How do we focus this newly freed up energy productively? The sources put a huge emphasis on perspective, calling it maybe the most valuable commodity there is.
It really is fundamental. Think about how your brain operates. It's essentially a pattern matching machine, right?
Right.
So if you change your focus, you literally change the results you get. Your brain starts finding the patterns you tell it to look for. If you focus on problems, guess what? You find problems. If you deliberately shift your focus to finding solutions, solutions start to pop out.
Like the old focus on red cars, suddenly see red cars everywhere thing.
Exactly like that. So the idea is Countless possibilities, countless solutions are often hidden from us simply because of our current perspective, our mental altitude, and our attitude. Just framing the same situation differently can unlock completely new approaches.
So when we feel stuck, bogged down in the weeds, the answer isn't necessarily to push harder on the problem itself.
Often, no. The answer is to change your altitude, to look from a higher place. Let go of the immediate frustration and shift your horizon. If you're confused about your daily tasks, the runway level, you might need to zoom out and look at your current projects.
And if the projects feel messy or directionless?
Then you zoom out again, maybe to your areas of responsibility, or even higher, to your goals, your vision, maybe even your ultimate purpose. You don't find clarity by digging deeper into the mud. You find it by getting a better vantage point.
This sounds like the vertical control idea, the 6 horizons of commitment. This gives us the framework for setting priorities that actually mean something.
Exactly. It provides the context. Without these different levels, prioritizing is just guesswork. Should we quickly run through them?
Yeah, let's do that. Ground up. So the lowest level.
That's the runway. These are your current next actions. The physical, visible things you can actually do. Phone calls, emails, drafting a paragraph. Usually, maybe 100 to 200 of these on your lists at any given time.
Okay, then up from there, 10,000 feet.
That's projects. And this is key. A project is any outcome you want to achieve that requires more than one action step. Finish the budget report, plan the vacation, launch the website. This list is usually dynamic, maybe 30 to 100 things. And this is where a lot of people get tripped up. They put a project on their action list.
Right, like do a budget report isn't an action, it's a project.
Exactly. The next action might be open spreadsheet or email Sarah for figures. Okay, moving up. 20,000 feet.
Areas of responsibility.
Yeah, these are the key areas of your life or work that you need to maintain ongoingly. They don't really have an end date. Things like health, finances, family, staff development, client relationships, system maintenance, maybe 10, 15 key areas. If you ignore these, your projects can start to feel a bit random.
Got it. Higher still, 30,000 feet.
Now we're talking goals, your 1 to 2 year objectives. What specific results do you want to achieve in the medium term? Increase market share by 10%, get that certification, buy a house. This is where strategic planning really kicks in.
And 40,000 feet. Getting pretty high now.
That's your longer term vision. 3 to 5 years out. What does success look like then? Where do you see your career, your company, your life heading? This broader vision helps you filter and select your shorter term goals.
And the top level, 50,000 feet plus.
That's your purpose, your why. Core values, life mission. What's the ultimate reason you're doing all this? If your daily runway actions feel disconnected from this highest level, that's often a source of deep dissatisfaction, even if you're busy.
Wow. Okay, so having that framework is crucial for navigating. If you're stuck, change altitude.
Precisely. Think about the last time you felt really burned out. Were you trying to solve a massive purpose question while drowning in runway level emails? Or maybe trying to micromanage tiny tasks when you really needed to revisit your 30,000-foot goals? You gotta match the altitude to the issue.
And the clearer that highest level, the purpose, the why, the easier the how becomes.
It unleashes creativity, yeah. Specificity about why you're doing something doesn't limit you. It gives you the criteria to make countless decisions down the line. It tells you which opportunities to pursue and which to ignore.
We see the opposite in workplaces sometimes, right? Like pointless meetings.
Oh, absolutely. That classic example. The weekly meeting that just keeps happening. Even if its original purpose faded years ago or was never clear to begin with, it just becomes this energy drain.
And the radical solution proposed is?
Just cancel all standing meetings and procedures, then only reschedule the ones that have a crystal clear current purpose that directly supports current goals. Make the form follow the function, or get rid of the form.
Ooh, that's bold. And this clarity, it starts with seeing the outcome first, the vision.
You have to see it first. You won't see how to do it until you see yourself doing it. Your brain needs that target. Once you have a clear picture of the desired result,
then the how starts appearing.
Exactly. Your brain's pattern recognition kicks in. It starts noticing resources, people, ideas that were probably there all along, but you just didn't register them because you hadn't defined the destination.
Okay, now here's a common pitfall. Dealing with the less important stuff. People use ABC priorities, but then the B's and C's get ignored.
Until they explode into A-level crises.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a huge trap. The fire you're fighting today was very likely a C's priority you neglected last week or last month.
So the argument isn't necessarily against prioritizing, but against using ABC codes as the only way to manage your entire list of commitments.
Right. Relying solely on ABC often becomes an excuse to avoid responsibility for the things that, frankly, aren't going away just because you labeled them B or C. They still represent commitments you've made.
So the key distinction is track everything. A complete inventory of all open loops, big or small, urgent or not.
Track it all. Get it all onto your project list or action lists. Then you make conscious choices about what to do when. You review everything regularly, usually weekly. The decision about what to actually work on now involves priority, yes, but also context, energy, time available. But crucially, you can relax about the B's and C's because you know they're captured, you know you'll see them again, and you've made a conscious choice not to do them right now rather than just avoiding them unconsciously.
Okay. And once we're focused, this idea that energy follows thought.
Yeah, it's almost neurological. When you direct your attention to something, you activate the neural pathways related to it. Thinking about a problem makes it easier to think about it again.
Like priming the pump.
Exactly. Which is why you should capture ideas whenever you have them, especially when you're already in a high energy or creative state. Don't wait until you need the idea. Grab it when it shows up.
Like harvesting insights during peak moments to use later.
Yes. You sort of bootstrap yourself into better. Use the output of your best thinking to fuel your average days.
And ultimately, the goal isn't just about reaching the future destination.
No, the real value of that future goal, that vision, is the impact it has on you right now. How it changes your attitude today, how it shapes your perceptions, the actions it inspires you to take in this present moment. That's where the leverage is.
All right, we've cleared the mind, we've got perspective. Part 3 is about building the external system, the rails, as you put it, to hold everything so our brain doesn't have to. And the absolute cornerstone here seems to be trust.
It's everything. The system you build, whether it's digital, paper, or a hybrid, it has to be more reliable at reminding you than your own mind is. If it isn't, your mind simply won't let go. It won't delegate that remembering function.
Because the mind is loyal, but a terrible filing clerk.
Exactly. It's designed for processing, creating, analyzing, thinking about your work. It's not designed for thinking of your work, for constantly remembering dozens or hundreds of commitments. If there's any doubt, any leak in your external system, your brain will pull that task right back into psychic RAM, and boom, you've lost the benefit.
And there's this interesting paradox. A truly effective system is one you barely notice.
Yeah, silent running. Its effectiveness is inversely proportional to how much you have to consciously think about the system itself. If you're constantly tweaking your app settings or reorganizing your folders or wondering where you put that note, that's energy not spent doing the actual work. A great system just works. It fades into the background.
And this trust has to be absolute. The system is only as strong as its weakest link.
Totally. If there's one part of your system you don't really trust, that notebook you rarely look at, the email flags you ignore, the messy pile in the corner of your desk, that inconsistency undermines the whole thing. Your brain knows. It knows that part is unreliable, so it can't trust the whole system. That weak link forces your conscious mind, the commander, to constantly worry about that unmanned post, dragging everything down. It has to be bulletproof, especially under pressure.
The sources use a really potent phrase. Unprocessed stuff acts like a disordered drug.
Isn't that evocative? Piles of paper, overflowing inboxes, disorganized notes. They create this kind of low-grade hum of chaos that we get used to. It actually buffers us from reality, numbs our sensitivity.
How so?
Because we're constantly managing the disorder itself. When you finally clear the decks, process everything, get organized, it can feel weirdly vulnerable at first. Suddenly there's no excuse, no buffer. You're face-to-face with reality.
But that's where the advantage lies.
That's the competitive edge. You're no longer numb. You're highly sensitive to new input, ready to respond appropriately because your baseline is clear.
And this applies organizationally, too. A slow team member slows everyone.
Big time. If one part of the organizational nervous system is clogged or slow, like someone taking weeks to reply to important info, it creates bottlenecks for everyone. Rapid processing and dispatch of information, even if some of it is junk that gets filtered out quickly, keeps the whole system responsive and agile, shortens those feedback loops. And this structure, this clarity, forces us to actually define the game we're playing. You can't win if you haven't defined what winning looks like.
Which brings us back to defining projects. Anything requiring more than one step.
Yes. And this is where people get stuck in what's called the scary swampland between thinking and doing.
Okay, let's wade into that swamp.
Right.
What are the two main ways people get stuck there?
Well, first you have the highly visionary types. They love the big picture, transform the industry, reinvent customer service.
Yeah.
But they resist kind of nailing down the specific project that starts that process, like research potential tech platforms or draft initial proposal. They resist shrinking the vision into a concrete next step.
Okay, that's one side. What's the other?
The other side is this super busy, action-oriented person. They have lots of little tasks on their list. Call Susan, email Bob Ravel. Quote, but they resist identifying the underlying project that these actions are serving. They don't connect Call Susan to the larger project of finalize Q3 marketing plan. So the actions feel disconnected and they might miss the bigger picture. Both need to bridge that gap between the grand idea and the immediate physical task.
So how do we keep these structures, these systems, consistently trustworthy over time? What's the mechanism?
The absolute non-negotiable key is the weekly review.
The sources really hammer this one home.
They do, and for good reason. It's described as the most critical habit for maintaining this entire system. It takes maybe 1 to 2 hours a week, every week, basically for life. But it's the only way to systematically ensure your brain can stop that endless loop of thinking about what I should be thinking about.
So it's like scheduled maintenance for your brain and your system.
Exactly. It's the dedicated time where you step back, look at everything, your calendar, your action lists, your project lists, your waiting for items, your higher level goals. You process all the new stuff you collected during the week, clear out the old, make sure every single project has a defined next action, and generally bring the whole system back up to a state of clear. It rebuilds the trust.
And it's not just about tasks and projects, right? It's also about nurturing other parts of life.
That's the function follows form idea. You use the structure of the review to deliberately poke yourself about things that might otherwise get ignored. During the week, you might capture reminders like think about reconnecting with college friends, or review personal health goals, or even just wild idea, start a podcast.
Oh.
The weekly review is the time you ensure those non-urgent but potentially important things actually get looked at and maybe turned into actions or projects. It keeps the important but not urgent stuff alive.
Finally, within these structures, there's a principle about principles versus policies.
Right. Prime your principles instead of just policing policies. Basically, rules and rigid procedures often pop up because the underlying principles or standards aren't clear or aren't trusted.
Like needing a strict rule about expense reports because the principle of responsible stewardship of company resources isn't deeply ingrained.
Precisely. If the standards are clear, communicated, and trusted, if everyone understands what we are at our best when actually means in practice for this team, this relationship, this aspect of your life, then you don't need as many rigid policies. People have the freedom to make good decisions within that clear framework. It fosters autonomy and reduces bureaucratic friction.
Okay, we've got mental clarity, strategic focus, and a trusted external system. Now for part 4, translating that into relaxed, effective action. And the core idea here is, again, kind of paradoxical. Your power is proportional to your ability to relax.
It's the master skill, truly. Think about any high-performance situation, surgery, sports, negotiation, even difficult conversations. Who performs best? The person who is tense, rigid, and stressed, or the person who is relaxed, centered, and focused?
Always the relaxed one.
Always. Tension constricts your thinking, narrows your vision, makes you reactive instead of responsive. The freer you are in your head, because you trust your system holds your commitments, the more creative, intuitive, and powerful your actions become. You're operating from a place of capability, not anxiety.
So assuming we've done the prep work and we're feeling relatively relaxed and ready, how do we actually choose what to do in any given moment? The sources say it's ultimately intuitive but requires managing multiple levels.
Yeah, there's no single algorithm like always do task X. It is an intuitive choice in the moment, but it's an informed intuition. You need to quickly scan, almost unconsciously once you get good at it, 3 key dynamics.
Okay, what are they? Dynamic 1.
First is context. Where are you? What tools do you have available? Who are you with? You can't make calls if you're in a quiet library. You can't work on your main computer if you're waiting at the dentist. Context dictates the menu of possible actions.
Makes sense. Second dynamic.
Second is type of work. Are you engaging in predefined work, checking off actions from your lists? Are you handling unexpected work that just showed up, that urgent email, the boss stopping by? Or are you doing defining work, processing your inbox, planning a new project, brainstorming? You need a balance. Too much unexpected work means defined work suffers.
Right. And the third dynamic.
Third is level of work. Which of those 6 horizons needs your attention right now? Are you getting lost in the runway weeds and need to reconnect with your 30,000-foot goals? Or are you endlessly tweaking your 50,000-foot purpose when you really just need to make that phone call? Runway. You have to consider which altitude is most appropriate for the current moment and task. Ignoring any of these levels leads to suboptimal choices.
So it's this rapid, intuitive assessment of context, type of work, and level of work that guides your action choice.
That's the idea. It sounds complex, but with practice, it becomes a very quick mental check that leads to much more effective and appropriate action.
Now let's get into some of those fascinating paradoxes about action. First up, you speed up by slowing down.
Yeah, this trips people up. When you rush, you get tunnel vision. You make mistakes, you miss things, you commit to stuff you shouldn't, all of which requires fixing later, which slows you down overall.
So if you feel frantic or hit a wall,
The best thing to do is often to stop completely. Just pause, let things simmer. Mentally put in the clutch. This allows you to reassess, find a better rhythm, and then re-engage more smoothly and ultimately more quickly. Resisting the slowdown often just keeps you grinding in the wrong gear.
okay. Paradox number 2, and this feels huge. You don't have time to do any project.
This is so fundamental. Projects, remember, are outcomes requiring multiple steps. They exist in your system, but you can't do a project. You can only do actions.
So when we feel overwhelmed by a big project like renovate the kitchen,
It's because renovate the kitchen isn't doable now. It's paralyzing. The only way to move it forward is to break it down relentlessly until you identify the very next single physical action, like call contractor candidate Smith, or measure space for fridge, or even Google kitchen designers nearby. If you're stalling, it's almost always because you haven't defined that immediate, visible next action.
got it. Do the action, not the project. Third paradox. It's easier to move when you're already in motion.
Think about physics, or like that martial arts sparring analogy again. It takes way more energy to start moving from a dead stop than it does to simply change direction if you're already moving.
So if you feel stuck, paralyzed, overwhelmed,
Just do something. Take the helm. Pick a direction, any direction sometimes, and engage. Make one phone call. Write one sentence. Tidy one corner of your desk. That little bit of movement breaks the inertia. It shifts your state from being the passive effect of overwhelm to being the active cause of momentum, however small. It cures the motion sickness of paralysis.
and as we're moving, we have to expect bumps, failures.
Absolutely essential. Success rarely comes in a straight line. The sources say the biggest successes often emerge from the most failures or course corrections. Think of a rocket going to the moon. It's technically off course almost the entire time.
Right, it's constantly adjusting.
Constantly. The goal isn't perfection on every single step. It's about maintaining momentum and making more good moves than bad ones over time. Consistent small adjustments, consistent small actions. That's what creates major impact.
Not the giant leaps, but the steady steps.
Exactly. That tiny bit of daily progress, that consistent engagement, adds up exponentially. Just like small negative habits procrastinating for 5 minutes, that little negative self-talk compound into big problems, small positive actions compound into huge breakthroughs. It's the power of consistency.
And the final piece for staying relaxed in motion. Expect surprises.
Plan for the unexpected. Assume your plans will be interrupted. Assume things will go wrong sometimes. Denying that possibility just makes you rigid and easily thrown off course.
So it's not about being pessimistic.
Not at all. It's about being realistic and building resilience. By thinking through potential problems in advance, what could go wrong here, you deal with the fear psychologically and conceptually before it happens. You build in contingency plans. So when the inevitable disruption occurs, you're not shocked or paralyzed, you're prepared. You can stay relaxed and adapt because you expected the possibility of chaos.
Okay, so we've journeyed through the philosophy, clearing the head, focusing, building structures, and relaxed action. The whole point is to have this reliable model for dealing with, well, the sheer amount of stuff life throws at us, moving from feeling overwhelmed to feeling in control. Before we wrap up, maybe we should do a quick practical recap of the core mechanics, that 5-phase workflow, the horizontal control.
Yeah, good idea. Just run through the nuts and bolts one more time. This is the day-to-day process for managing everything.
Okay, phase 1, collect.
Get it all out of your head. Everything. Use as few capture buckets as possible. Physical, in-tray, notebook, digital, app, but make sure they're leak-proof. And commit to emptying them regularly. Don't trust your brain to hold anything.
Total capture. Phase 2, process.
This is the thinking part. Look at each item you collected and ask, what is it? Is it actionable? If yes, decide the desired outcome and the single next physical action. If that action takes less than 2 minutes,
Do it right then and there.
right. If it takes longer, either delegate it and track it on a waiting for list, or defer it, put it on your next action that's listed to do later. And if it requires more than one step.
Define it as a project, then figure out the next action for that project.
Exactly. The key failure point here is not defining that concrete next action. Leaving things vague keeps them stuck in your head.
Okay. Phase 3. Organize.
Put the reminders where they belong. Group your deferred next actions by context at calls, at errands, at computer, at home, at agenda for Bob, etc. So you only see actions you can do based on where you are and what tools you have. Also organize project plans and support material so you can find them easily when needed.
Structure supports action. Phase 4. Review.
The absolute engine of trust. You need daily glances at your calendar and action list, sure, but the non-negotiable is the weekly review. That dedicated 1 to 2 hours to get clear, get current, and get creative. Process all outstanding inputs, review all your lists, projects, next actions waiting for, someday maybe. Look at upcoming calendar items, check in on your goals. This is what keeps the whole system integrated and trustworthy.
Without the weekly review, the system eventually breaks down.
It inevitably erodes, the mind stops trusting it, and starts taking back the job of remembering. And finally, phase 5. Do. This is where you execute. You make intuitive choices about what to do based on your context, time available, energy level, and priorities, informed by that multi-level review and your 6 horizons. You act with confidence because you trust your choices are based on a complete and current picture of your world.
That's the horizontal flow. And just briefly, the vertical model for planning a single project. The natural planning model.
Right. That's for tackling one specific outcome. It mirrors how our brains naturally plan. You start with purpose. Why are we doing this?
Right.
Then clarify the vision. What does success look like? Then brainstorm all related ideas freely. Then organize the brainstormed items into components, priorities, sequences. And finally, determine the very next actions. And if you still feel stuck or anxious about the project, keep cycling through that model until you nail down that clear first step.
Outro. So wrapping this all up, it really is this powerful combination, isn't it? First, actively clearing your mental space, aiming for that calm, responsive, mind-like water. And second, building these robust external systems that you absolutely trust to manage all the agreements you've made, big and small.
Exactly. And maybe a final thought to leave folks with, it touches on responsibility. The sources emphasize that whenever responsibility for something is vague shared between people or even just between different parts of your own intention, it often means nobody is truly responsible. Real integrity in this context means you take responsibility for clearly defining, tracking, and managing your commitments.
Because you own it.
You own it, because doing that work up front is what creates the solid platform. It ensures that when that moment comes for decisive, intuitive, relaxed action, you're launching from a place of clarity and trust, not just slippery hope or frantic anxiety.
That's powerful. So here's a final thought for you listening. Take a look at your current list of projects. Find one that feels stuck or that you're avoiding. Have you actually defined the very next single physical action required to move it forward? If not, you're likely stalled. So what's the one tiny, maybe 2-minute action, making that call, sending that quick email, finding that file that you could do right now to kickstart it? Don't just think about it. Go do it.
Fantastic challenge. We hope exploring these principles helps you find a bit more focus, a bit more ease, and maybe sparks some continuous discovery in how you approach your work and life. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
Thanks for tuning in to the Book Summary Podcast. If you found value in today's episode, hit that like button, subscribe for more summaries, and share it with someone who's ready to grow. Want deeper insights, exclusive book notes, and reading tips? Join our free newsletter. The link's in the description. And don't forget, if you'd like to read the full book, our affiliate link is right below. It helps support the channel and keeps the summaries coming. Until next time, keep reading, keep growing.